Ladies and gentlemen, on episode 5675 of Accusing Trump of What They're Guilty of Doing, John Brennan slams Trump amid Director of National Intelligence resignation. So the top two people at ODNI, Dan Coates and Sue Gordon, these are the top two remnants of the James Clapper years. Dan Coates might not have been working for Clapper. I believe Sue Gordon was. And so John Brennan says, well, you know what? He only has an acting director of national intelligence. He wants loyalty. Nobody had more loyalty around him than President Obama. So much so that the Committee on Foreign Investment didn't utter not even a little word of protest when 20% of U.S. uranium capacity was being sold to the Russian government. And they knew that the sale could eventually lead to the Russian government, even though at that moment it was just a Russian company. Or a company that was about to do a deal with Putin. Uranium One executives were giving money to the Clinton Foundation. That is just a miracle. Or a coincidence. Gee, come to think of it, lots of people nowadays who were finding out, I guess, shall we say, no longer exist anymore. Don't want to get into it on my family channel. Had ties to Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. That's interesting. Gee, but anyway, John Brennan is on MSNBC saying he wants loyalty. He wants loyalty. This is a guy who utilized a Steele dossier purchased by Clinton. This is a guy who was so loyal to President Obama, or President Obama was so loyal to him, that he actually lied under oath about surveillance over the Senate. President Obama's Senate. He infiltrated the Senate. Dianne Feinstein was livid. And he lied under oath about it. And then Clapper lied under oath about surveillance of Americans. They got away with it. They got away with it under President Obama's administration. But you have everyone from Loretta Lynch, who allegedly told James Comey to call the Clinton email investigation a matter that made Comey queasy. And then you had Comey, who couldn't find intent. And then you had President Obama, who said, yeah, I can't imagine that she harmed national security. Now they're calling somebody a human sieve, as if they care about leaking information or every single aspect of the Democratic Party is hacked. Why? Because they utilize outside tech firms, or they just simply don't utilize any protection at all. And then they flip the script and they say, well, it's Trump. That's the issue. He worked with Russia. No. The Clinton Foundation, the DNC, the DCCC, Clinton's servers, of course, were infiltrated by the planet. She had classified emails on Uma Abedin's husband's laptop. You had more classified emails, virtually more classified emails outside the Obama administration than inside the Obama administration. 2,000 plus on servers outside of the U.S. government with top secret and special access program intelligence. Has anyone on the left even asked, well, do you think other countries infiltrated or hacked Clinton's server? Then they blame Russia for hacking the DNC. The Director of National Intelligence isn't even certain about that. But appearing on MSNBC and the Department of Homeland Security reports aren't even certain about that. But then you have, appearing on MSNBC, Brennan was sounding the alarms about the intel shakeup and suggested that Sue Gordon was being forced out based on her resignation letter. When you have the number one and number two departing the head of the intelligence community, it really does damage to the community as a whole. The community allowed Clinton to have servers servers. This is not difficult to understand. Actual servers that the U.S. government had no access to, but she had access to everything in the U.S. government. How does that work? And then Comey is just telling everyone, and the media is like, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Because they cannot imagine that their preferred candidate, who's running again, it's 5 minutes in, okay. They're not going with Biden or Bernie or anyone else. Those polls that say, these people can beat Trump. No, they can't. A presidential election in this day and age is about money or brand name. Okay? Trump didn't have the money at $600 million, but his brand was like a national institution, whether you like it or didn't like it. And he already conquered Hollywood, and that's the reason that Hollywood is obsessed with trying to take him down. He had There's 15 seasons of The Apprentice, something like that. Okay, you had a whole bunch of Hollywood liberals who made money from The Apprentice and worked on The Apprentice who are now, I can't stand Trump. Yeah, but you were okay with him when he was making money for you. Anyway, I don't know. Why do you think he didn't want her at MSNBC? Because she's probably a remnant of Dan Coates, who's a remnant who is tied to the same establishment of James Clapper. James Clapper was privy to all the intelligence, the quote-unquote intelligence, which wasn't intelligence. It is not national security to have the DNC allegedly hacked by another country. You want to know why I know? Because Democrats purchased a dossier compiled with one active Russian intelligence officer, if you believe Christopher Steele. So they said, well, we have this dossier that says that Trump has great ties to Russia. And in the same breath, they say, well, Russia hacked the DNC. Well, which one is it? It's okay for you to use a dossier from two other countries, the UK, compiled in the UK with sources from Russia, and then you find a ledger in the Ukraine about Manafort. So and then you have Peter Strzok flying to London. Then you have Alexander Downer and a Australian ambassador start the whole nonsense. It's so... Look, when the history of this time period is written, it will not be written by the same people who pumped the Trump-Russia myth. It won't, because they're slowly eroding into irrelevance. And when Clinton loses again in 2020, because Democrats will lose with Clinton, and it'll be the same rematch of 2016, there's zero enthusiasm, there's zero passion. The polls do not mention the fact that Clinton is going to run. There's zero passion, zero enthusiasm for anyone, okay? Even on social media, there's still Bernie people, but the Bernie people are beleaguered. There are even tensions between Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, then there's this bizarre thing, and I used to be on the left. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet. Now you have all the people say, I love Bernie. Well, where were you? Where were you when I was writing in the Huffington Post that Clinton could not win? Oh, okay, you don't want to be too confrontational. People, whatever, I don't care. They can all implode, and they are imploding. But Brennan is sounding the alarms about loyalty. He was more loyal to President Obama. He was just as loyal as every other intelligence official. And in terms of loyalty, the way President Obama's administration worked is this. They actually think that they believe him when he said he didn't know his attorney general, he didn't know why his attorney general spoke about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren with Bill Clinton. I don't even know if he was asked. He might have been. Anything he says, he didn't know that Clinton had her own private server. Then you have Clinton Foundation donations. And you have everything from Boeing, who lobbied for a Russian airline deal, and they got it, to UBS, who had trouble with the IRS, and they gave money to the Clinton Foundation and Bill Clinton speaking fees, and then suddenly they were helped out big time by Madam Secretary. That's even in the Atlantic. The current generation, I don't even want to say it's a generation, the current crop of journalists and reporters, the past, I would say 6 years, 5 to 6 years, you've had simply activists. It's not sustainable because when Democrats lose again because of people like Clapper and Brennan, who are accusing Trump of things that they're guilty of, and when we find out the full extent of how they framed and set up Trump, and when Democrats realize they don't have a political party, and it was just Clinton 2020, and then 2024, 2028, it's not going to end. They're going to realize that they're on the wrong side of history. They're going to realize that the moment in time where they think they have like this unmitigated, unparalleled influence and power, where AOC is the thought leader, she's the Einstein, the intellectual paradigm revolves around CNN, AOC, and who else? And Bette Midler. Okay, when that's the intellectual paradigm of the mainstream in journalism, not sustainable. You can't. Okay, Hollywood and corrupt intelligence officials. So you have people in Hollywood who just loved Harvey Weinstein, and people in Hollywood and the intelligence officials and deranged people on the far left make up the Democratic Party. They're the loudest voices in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is going to completely implode. So this kind of public relations spin where he knows what's going on. John Brennan knows that he's going to be implicated in all of this. He knows he's going to be implicated. He knows he's going to be made to testify. He knows that almost certainly they have perjury traps left and right for all of these people. Simple perjury trap. Both Loretta Lynch and James Comey were under oath. Loretta Lynch said, "I never told Comey to call it a matter." James Comey said, "She told me to call it a matter." That's obstruction. You could say that's obstruction of justice by today's standards against Trump. And that's just one example. Someone committed perjury. Then you have Andrew McCabe and James Comey. One of them is lying. James Comey says that he never told Andrew McCabe to leak information. Andrew McCabe said Comey did, but that's not the half of it. McCabe lied 3 times under oath. So nobody cares about this. The media, this is why the media is, what they do is they twist Trump's words. They then fabricate what they think he says, and they pontificate on words he never said. And then if he actually says something like, "Hey, we need unity, we need love," they say, "Well, here, let's look at the subtext. He didn't really mean that." So he never said, "Oh, send back." He never said that. The media then took what he said in a tweet. He literally said, "Come back home. Come back." But he never said there are fine people on the Tiki Torch side. That never happened. He was not referring to the Tiki Torch people. That never happened. That this is like an 8th grade. "Oh, you said this, you said that." And meanwhile, Joe Biden's like, "Oh yeah, he said he made a ridiculous statement yesterday, okay, where he said that poor kids are just as intelligent as Caucasian kids. Well, why are you assuming that everyone who's not white is poor? That's interesting. Wouldn't that be structural supremacy, nationalism, enabling all of? Okay, well, it's Joe Biden, no problem. They use these terms. They have like 10 different ways to say the word racist. They use these terms to condemn, to marginalize, and to wield. These are semantic weapons. That's it. They don't. The issue of morality is not. That's not the issue. They don't care about that because they're going to vote for Clinton, who has said and done worse. She presided over, along with Bill, the era of mass incarceration. President Trump signed the First Step Act. If he was such a bigot, he wouldn't have done that. But he did not. He did not work with Russia. And they've convinced themselves he did, even though there was no evidence to charge anyone for conspiring. And then they say, well, he did a lot of bad things, and this is not exonerating. Well, if he did those things, then they would have been criminal. Well, we just can't prove the criminal, there's criminality there. Yeah, because there was no evidence. You could easily prove Clinton committed crimes, but James Comey fell back on something that wasn't an issue. Tomorrow, if William Barr wanted to indict Clinton, he could. And by the way, people say, you said that Clinton would be indicted a million times. Well, yeah, in 2016, there was a criminal investigation, and she should have been. And then there was a cover-up. I'm supposed to know what Peter Strzok and Lisa Page are doing on their free time. I'm supposed to know they're stooping. Okay? I don't think so. That's not my business. And furthermore, I didn't have any sources at the FBI. And people, oh, yeah, he said he has. No, I didn't. I would have known that they were friends with benefits if I did. The issue here is that the FBI covered up Clinton's crimes. And the country is now in free fall. Well, not only half the country. Or I'd say maybe a third, because the Democratic Party is in free fall. And they're trying to take as many people with them. And every tragedy, they sensationalize. Everything Trump says, they sensationalize. He said space invaders, oh my God. Everything they say is just... But I said eventually she'll get indicted, and it's inevitable. She's committed too many crimes. So there's one knock on me. It's like, you said that you get indicted. Well, she committed crimes. Yes or no? No? Okay, well, let's have a good conversation about that. Okay? Top secret intelligence on servers outside the U.S. government. Blatant pay-to-play schemes in the Clinton Foundation. Why do you think money flowed from Uranium One to the Clinton Foundation? But why? What about UBS, Boeing, weapons deals, Haiti? What happened to the $10 billion? So... we can go on forever. And then they say, but if the tables were turned, oh my God, they would put their thinking caps on and put two and two together. But I was right about Clinton losing the election. I stated that. And the way I was writing about Clinton in 2015, now people on the left are writing about her that way. Or they're talking about her that way. That was blasphemy when I was doing it. It was blasphemy. Then I got all the hit pieces on me from the Daily Beast and Raw Story. But now you can express that opinion, and the hardcore I'm with her crowd is still there, but generally people agree with you. And the same people who think that she's horrendous will still vote for her. That's what the Democratic Party is about. There's a pure they're controlled, their minds are controlled by simply the belief that if they vote for somebody horrendous, as long as it gives them political power, it's worth it. That's not what Trump voters do. President Trump wants to bring home Americans from counterinsurgency conflicts. He said all American soldiers he wants from Afghanistan. He signed First Step Act. There's a great economy. He has done things to warrant votes. Democrats cheat. Bernie Sanders do things not to warrant votes and then demand blind loyalty. And then they say that Trump wants loyalty when they're the ones who have always received the blindest loyalty. The corrupt intelligence officials, media, and the IG report talked about this. FBI agents were basically, media and FBI were embedded within one another. That's why you had all this nonsense. Oh, the roof is caving in. Oh, Trump worked with Russia. No, he didn't. No, he didn't, you imbecile. Anyway, check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. And if you want to support my voice long term and that other channel, since that other channel is not monetized, my Patreon is below. Thank you so very, very, very much.